Welcome into MetLife Stadium. Joe Schad, Jason Leisure. Dolphins do it again. Dolphins 34, Jets 13. Dolphins didn't just win this ball game. They humiliated the Jets. And there weren't a lot of fans here, Jason Leisure. And a lot of the fans who were here were Dolphin fans. And they were chanting, "Let's go Dolphins" at the end of the game. Lots to talk about. We want to catch you up on the news first. During the game, NFL Network NBC sports reporter Heather Cox, my former colleague at ESPN, said that Ryan Tannehill was in a full-legged cast and that he had sustained a MCL injury, which included tearing off the bone. Now, that is a key phrase. And Jason, I know after the game you were among those who spoke to Ryan Tannehill. You wanted to clarify the extent of the injury and the impact it might have on his ability to return. What did you learn?
Well, Ryan Tannehill does have his leg in a full cast, Joe. Tearing the MCL off the bone, though, would eliminate any possibility that he's playing this year. He said that's not true. He said that would be a grade 3 sprain. It's still considered a sprain, somehow. But he said he has been diagnosed with a grade 2 sprain, which means there's still some integrity in that MCL as far as connecting to the bone is concerned. He says that NFL Network report is not true. He's still hopeful he can play this season, and nothing's been determined about whether or not that's possible. That's what Tannehill says.
Yeah. Now, we should say that when it comes to medical information, first of all, neither of us, nor Heather Cox, nor Ryan Tannehill, are doctors.
I took some classes.
Yeah. So there are some phrases that are used that are medical related that can get a little dicey, that can get a little gray.
I think with sprain, most people hear sprain and they don't think that means a tear.
So a sprain,
and I wouldn't have until we looked it up.
A sprain does mean a partial tear.
Yeah.
So to what extent the off the bone, how much, what percentage, what degree, we can't be sure. We have not personally evaluated Ryan Tannehill's MRIs.
We're not that good.
We thought that Mike Pouncey was going to return until the Dolphins put him
thought he was
on IR. So, medical evaluations change. Tannehill did apparently indicate that the second opinion was consistent with the first. And the Dolphins let us know that that's, in fact, what the report was. All right.
So that's the Tannehill news. You guys can find that online. That's already up.
Now, the guy who stepped in for Ryan Tannehill, Matt Moore, threw for a career-high 4 touchdowns.
Yeah.
As good as Ryan Tannehill has been, he did not do that this year.
Joe's writing about Matt Moore. You spoke to Matt Moore. Let me hit you with the numbers, and then you tell us what those mean to you or what you got from Matt Moore. Matt Moore, nothing spectacular, but very efficient. 12 of 18, 236 yards, 4 touchdowns like Joe mentioned, 1 interception. That was the only turnover. He didn't lose any fumbles, and he was only sacked once. A passer rating of 126.2, Joe.
So the impression I got from Matt Moore is that in no way did this surprise him.
He played so well?
Yeah, I mean, most quarterbacks by nature are confident. That's what enables them to be a quarterback in the NFL. I mean, it takes a certain amount of, leadership skill and confidence in oneself to actually do that at the highest level. But Matt Moore really was not surprised at what he was able to do. He said, he was a little nervous the first couple of drives. He got off to a slow start. Then he caught a rhythm. Obviously, he thinks that playing a full game against the Dolphins is really going to help him next week against Buffalo. And speaking to some of the players, what they indicated to me is that Moore is the kind of guy that commands their respect with the way he speaks to them. It is basically, look at me in the eye. I am in command. I am in charge. We're going to get this done.
Part of that is his age. I mean, he's older
He's
than most
32
of these
years
guys.
old. He's a very assertive, direct, strong personality. And it was interesting, head coach Adam Gase said, he and Ryan Tannehill's personalities kind of flipped this week. Tannehill was loosey-goosey because he wasn't playing, and Moore kind of turned on the serious gene. So, just a really impressive performance by Matt Moore, who goes deep a few times. He goes deep to Kenny Stills. Jarvis Landry asked me after the game if I knew how many Dolphins receivers had consecutive 1,000-yard seasons. I told him I would look it up.
I had it in my story the other day and I forget.
Okay,
I want to say 6. I want to say
is this his third season?
It's his third season, but his second 1,000-yard season.
Only back-to-back. He thought, so now J.J. and Jarvis Landry each passed 1,000 yards in this game.
Yes.
And only one other duo, running back, wide receiver in Dolphins history, had done it.
Don't tell them, man.
Okay.
We'll see if they know.
We'll
come back to it later.
I'll tell you who Jarvis Landry guessed.
We'll get back to that.
He guessed Duper or Clayton End, who would be the running back.
I don't even know, man.
There was not a 1,000-yard running back in the 80s. I don't know.
I wasn't really much.
You guys
in the
help
80s.
me out. It wasn't Chambers and Ricky. Go ahead. What else?
Well, one of the things that you mentioned was, one of the things I liked, because I had written about Jarvis Landry yesterday about how he just makes life easier for these guys no matter who's at quarterback. And one of the things Matt Moore said was his favorite thing about Jarvis Landry is you can throw just a tiny little pass to him and he can turn it into something. It's such a low risk, high reward proposition, and that happened. He threw him just a little flip pass and he took it 66 yards for a touchdown. That's one of the things that impressed me today about Matt Moore, Joe, and I don't know if you heard anything like this from Gase or Matt Moore tonight. Matt Moore doesn't have Ryan Tannehill's abilities physically, but Matt Moore used the offense the way that Ryan Tannehill uses it. He hit Kenny Stills on a route that you've seen Kenny Stills running all year. He hit Landry on one of those little ones. He used all those guys the same way Tannehill did, I thought.
Kyle Santiago, you're one of our best viewers, and you are right. Yeah.
Good job,
It is
Kyle.
Brandon.
Look at that.
Brandon Marshall and Reggie Bush. And when I told Jarvis
What year
that,
was it?
11, I think.
Okay.
Does that sound right? Does Reggie Bush sound like around 11?
Yeah,
I
11-ish.
think that's right.
Yeah.
I think 2011. Jarvis.
Why don't we have Kyle tell us? Kyle knows everything.
Jarvis was like, "Oh, okay, thanks." Look up that thing about back-to-back.
He wanted it to be something that was further
He
back.
wants to know how many Dolphins.
Okay.
Yeah.
That answer's like 6. That's like 6. I think Brandon Marshall did it most recently, but there's been like 6. I think Landry is the 6th guy. I don't remember offhand, but it's something like that.
It's 12:42 a.m., so we're gonna hit a few things and
Yes.
get to writing. One thing I want to hit is Cameron Wake.
Oh, unbelievable.
Cameron Wake
He
had
just continues to
the
surprise you.
sack forced fumble recovered by Ndamukong Suh.
Right.
And
In
he
the
had the
first quarter.
first interception of his career.
8 years, never had an interception.
Unbelievable.
And I'll tell you, and
performance.
Bryce Petty, threw the ball right to him too. It wasn't a great throw. He kind of had to reach down for it. But I don't know who they could possibly say that was intended for, because it looked like it was intended for Cam Wake.
This is a really bad New York Jets team. There was a play late in the game where Cam Wake and Ndamukong Suh both lined up at the defensive end positions. Were
Yeah, that's
completely unblocked.
Oh gosh.
They drilled Bryce Petty in the
Petty,
ribs. I don't know if he has broken ribs.
I don't know if there's a proof of life. We need to see a picture of that guy holding tomorrow's newspaper.
We need to root for the Patriots tomorrow. Paul, that is true.
Yeah, let's get into Paul Carbello's point about where this puts him in the playoff race. So, Joe, for a few hours, the Dolphins have sole possession of the 6th seed in the AFC race.
That's a good point. Dolphins are in playoff position.
That could change tomorrow
because on December 17th. Is it? I don't even know.
That was yesterday, technically. Now we're already 45 minutes into December 18th.
Holy crap! It's December 18th.
You got it, man. Christmas a week away.
December 18th was my dad's birthday. My dad took me to a lot of Jets Dolphins games. Go ahead.
I lost my train of thought.
We were talking about the playoff race.
The Broncos.
Yeah,
So the Broncos play tomorrow.
4:30.
So for a few hours, the Dolphins have the 6th seed. Why don't you explain what the deal is here between them and Denver? You have Pittsburgh and Baltimore and Tennessee behind them, but right now, let's just focus on what's going on with Miami and Denver.
So the Dolphins are in good shape as it relates to Denver because Denver has 3 really tough opponents: the Patriots, the Chiefs, and the Raiders.
Yes.
If the
they're
Dolphins,
like 31-8 or something like that combined, those teams.
If the Dolphins were to win the last 2 and Denver were to win only 2, then the Dolphins would get in. If the Dolphins were to win the next, basically the Dolphins are in pretty good position based on the fact that the Broncos have a very tough remaining schedule and that they have a half-game lead at this point. Maybe we'll just leave it at that.
If the Dolphins can win their last 2 games, which is at Buffalo and then home against New England.
Yeah. Then Denver would have to win
11 and 5.
Denver would have to win 3 huge
3 very tough games.
I mean, kudos
Very
to
tough
Denver
games.
if they get in the playoffs by beating New England, Kansas City, and Oakland.
And one of the things that
really
would
incredible.
really take, you just really have to sit down with a calculator and some pencil and paper, man, because you get into common opponent records, and it depends which games Denver loses. For example, tomorrow's a big one because New England is a common opponent for both teams. That's the advantage. That's the tiebreaker advantage Denver has right now is the common opponent. The better record in games against common opponents, and that could change too. With
Here's another takeaway for me, and I have the 5 instant takeaways on the Daily Dolphin blog.
There's a lot up already right
The
now.
Dolphins have more depth at cornerback than anybody could have imagined. Byron Maxwell goes out. Xavier Howard comes in. Adam Gase immediately gets on the headset. How many snaps do we think Xavier Howard is capable of playing? Played the whole game. Played the whole game. Did a great job.
Coming off a knee injury.
Did a great job against Brandon Marshall. Was in the elevator coming up back to the press box. Brandon Marshall had 16 yards, and he was all fun and games. All fun and games at the beginning of the game. He had a penalty flag in his waist. He was going to try to taunt Byron Maxwell. At one point, there was a penalty flag on the ground, and he started making circles around the penalty flag. I mean, this guy, his mind was everywhere. But yes, Xavier Howard and Tony Lippett. Tony Lippett was really good tonight.
Yeah.
He had 2 interceptions for the second time this season. He had 2 interceptions in a game
5
at San
tackles,
Diego. Tell you what, Tony Lippett, man, this guy, he really has a lot of upside, and now he has all this experience, 11 games. The Dolphins are in strong position at the cornerback.
So much better than you thought after the first month of the season when you were losing Xavier Howard and they had just benched Byron Maxwell. No one really knew what Tony Lippett was at that point.
Let's think
3 pretty solid guys,
Yeah.
and Bobby McCain hasn't been bad.
Yeah, no, the Dolphins' secondary. Run defense is always going to be an issue. If you look at LaShawn McCoy and LeGarrette Blount, LaShawn McCoy was hurt the last
Coming
time.
up, those are the next 2 running backs coming up.
LaShawn McCoy was hurt the last time the Dolphins played the Bills. The Dolphins caught a break there. LeGarrette Blount, you might remember him leaping over Byron Maxwell and putting his hand into Byron Maxwell's face, just embarrassing him. God, sorry, Byron, if you're watching, and you're probably not.
He's not.
You're not. All right,
Byron Maxwell, by the way, left with an ankle injury. We saw him come back out in the second half. He wasn't wearing pads. There was no chance he was coming back at that point. So we don't. And I didn't catch him in the locker room. I don't know if he was really in there much when the media was in there.
All right, I want to go right. So my parting thought is going to be one good, one bad. My one bad is concern about Jelani Jenkins and Kiko Alonso and the Dolphins' banged-up linebacker core and their inability to tackle effectively.
You're missing Koamisi from the 3 starters at the beginning of the year. You're missing Koamisi, and then you have 2 other guys that are hurt.
So Bilal Powell, not a superstar running back, but
Looked like one tonight.
made the Dolphins look bad in the run defense. So run defense continues to be a concern
5.3 yards per carry from
for the
him.
Miami Dolphins. That is, just not good enough.
What are your 2 good ones, though?
The good is incredible resiliency from this team. If I told you before the season, Dolphins are going to start 1-4, and they're going to sustain. I'm laughing as I say this. The Dolphins are going to start 1-4, and they're going to sustain serious injuries to Ryan Tannehill, Mike Pouncey. Arian Foster is going to retire.
Rashad Jones,
Koamisi, Jordan Cameron.
Offensive lineman in and out. Not out for the year, but in
Xavier
and
Howard.
out constantly.
That Laramie Tunsil's going to slip in the shower and miss a game when he was supposed to play left tackle for Brandon Albert, who was sick.
Right.
That Brandon Albert was going to tear ligaments and require surgery in his wrist. I mean, I know that every NFL team has injuries, but what Adam Gase has done is remarkable.
Yeah.
I swear, if the Dolphins go 11-5 and he does not win Coach of the Year, I don't care about Jason Garrett. I don't care about, Andy Reid?
With the Chiefs.
I don't care about Jason Garrett and Andy Reid.
Who else do you not care about?
I don't know.
List off some more guys you don't care about.
Everybody else? It's very late. But we got a great crowd, man. We've had a lot of people tuning in.
I think Adam Gase is a Coach of the Year candidate already. This is grounds enough, even if they don't finish it
He should
and get
get
to the
votes.
playoffs. This was a 6-10 team last year, Joe, and nobody thought this was going to be this
should
way.
get votes.
And furthermore, he's not using his pieces. Adam Gase, the idea is that this guy would have time to kind of tailor the roster to what he wants to do. He's making do it the best he can right now, and you're talking about a team that has a chance at the playoffs with 2 games left.
My last thought, before I turn it over to you for your closing thoughts.
I'm going to tell you everybody I don't care about.
The Dolphins brought back Matt Moore. Now, I wasn't here, but I talked to someone in the locker room who would know, who said that it was very much in doubt that Matt Moore was going to resign.
Right, that he might leave in free
All right,
agency.
so I was told that Matt Moore was seriously looking for a new relationship, and the Dolphins were seriously looking for a new backup quarterback relationship. So all I have to say is, the Dolphins are very fortunate stop with this. Matt Moore
Why
is
do you
better
even
than Ryan
read something
Tannehill.
like that? Why do
That
you
is
pay attention to
because
that?
that is not. People thought that that's what I was implying
Somebody
on
might
Twitter.
have typed that just to make you mad.
People thought
might
that
be
that's
his
what I
only
was
purpose in
implying. I can't stand Omar Kelly. Why would you say that in a Palm Beach Post chat? It's not a very nice thing to say.
You're getting so distracted right now.
I don't know. That's all I wanted to say. The last thing I would like from you, Jason Leisure, in this remarkable 9-5 Dolphin season,
Okay.
give me one positive takeaway, one negative takeaway in any order.
Well, I would say the positive for sure. There really isn't much of a negative, Joe. I mean, they've overachieved. I mean,
Tonight, though, anything concern you?
from tonight, I mean, Andrew Franks continues to be a little bit of an
There you
issue.
go.
He missed his first extra point of the year, and it's not that Andrew Franks, the kicker, has been so bad, but it's that they just don't seem to trust him on long kicks. They had him trying out 52, 53 yarders before the game, and he was short.
Really short.
They passed on having him kick a 52-yarder at home in good weather, I think at the beginning of this month or late November. I mean, if there's more kickers than jobs. If you don't have a guy that can do it, go find someone that can. But that's minutia, really, when you look at this team. The positives are everywhere. Just a bunch of overachievers. This team reminds me a lot of what you saw from this team in 08, where they beat a bunch of kind of okay teams. They had a lot of narrow escapes. Their run, I think you'd agree, this year, 8 out of 9, is not exactly convincing, but it's fairly impressive that they've come up with all these spectacular plays. I mean, they've gotten all this unusual stuff, and tonight was just more of the same, kind of wild and weird. I mean, when you think back to that winning streak they're on, you have Jay Ajayi coming from nowhere with 200-yard games. You have Kiko Alonso getting the first pick 6 of his life, even going back down to childhood. He'd never done that. And now tonight you get Cam Wake, gets his first interception in 8 years. He was you'd love almanac kind of stuff. He was the first Dolphin since Jason Taylor 10 years ago to get an interception and a strip sack in the same game. I mean, just all kinds of crazy stuff has come together as they've turned their season around, and it's been, whether they finish this or not, whether you're convinced by it or not, whether you think that they'll go in, if they do make the playoffs, go in and get rolled by somebody decent, which is what happened to that 08 team. Regardless of any of that, you've been entertained. You cannot say that this was not, you can't argue that. This was a fun watch. This has become high-quality television programming.
Did you know there's actually a scenario? I saw it on the ESPN Playoff Predictor. It's not going to happen, but it's not going to happen. But it could actually mathematically happen that the Dolphins are the #1 seed in the East.
No.
I swear.
How?
In the AFC. I'm thinking like basketball, East and West.
Okay.
That is actually a scenario. I'm not saying it's going to happen. Yeah, obviously they would have to surpass the Patriots in the division. It would require several Patriots losses. They finish first.
There's not even time
with
for
the best
several
record.
Patriots losses. There's 3 games left.
I don't know.
So Joe's got Matt Moore. We
So I
got
got
stuff
Matt
on there
Moore.
about Ryan Tannehill and just what a crazy run it's been the last few games. Dave George is up here. He wrote about how Cam Wake, the guy that everybody pretty much thought was pretty much wrote him off, thought at least his Dolphins career is over, and if not his pro football career, started everything with those just phenomenal plays early in the game. So tons of stuff on there for you guys to check out, and more coming.
I agree with the fans who say that it's bull, that everyone just says that the Dolphins aren't that good and that they've just played bad teams and that they've had some luck.
You mean what I said? You mean my points?
You didn't just say
I
that.
didn't say they're lucky, but they've had some unusual things. And I'm not convinced that they're going to go win a playoff game.
No, what I was talking about is someone was saying, for example, that ESPN isn't giving the Dolphins their due credit. You know, like not.
I don't know if ESPN's talking about them at all.
Not viewing them as like a legitimate 9-5 team. I guess my final question would be this: at 9-5, have we reached the point where national media such as NFL Network, ESPN, Sports Illustrated, Yahoo, Bleacher, whatever, CBS, should take the Dolphins more seriously and should actually give them more coverage?
Probably not, man. I mean, I don't think it's a knock on the Dolphins
Right.
to say they're not a great team. That they're fine.
Okay.
They're fine. The whole league is fine right now. If you look around the league, there's like 2 or 3 great teams. There's New England and Dallas, and then you wonder maybe Seattle, maybe
Kansas
Oakland.
City, Oakland.
I don't think anyone thinks Kansas City's great, do they? I mean, their record's pretty good. It's a game or 2 better than the Dolphins, but most of the league is just fine. The teams they've beaten are not horrible teams. They're not great teams. The Dolphins are not a horrible team. They're not a great team.
So I kind of like this
fine.
thing. I'm fine with the narrative. I like the narrative that Adam Gase and the Dolphins are overachieving. That's okay.
Fine is good. I mean, they were 6 and 10 last year.
Overachieving
so to
is
be
good.
fine, I mean,
Overachieving is
you
good.
sleep well at night knowing you've done that if you're Adam Gase.
Listen, we have huge numbers on Facebook Live, huge numbers on the daily Dolphin blog on Palm Beach Post Sports, and we really appreciate it. This is so much. I hope you guys can tell, we really enjoy what we do. We like these Facebook Live chats. We like writing these columns and stories. It's a lot of fun. It beats lifting stuff.
It does. There you go. That's true.
I did actually lift. One of my jobs I had once was delivering propane gas tanks.
Really?
That was an actual
propane and propane accessories.
That was an actual job. So, thank you, Charlie, for watching. And it's going to be a long drive home to Long Island. It's going to be a really rough early flight back to South Florida. But you know what? We're going to make it home, and it's going to be 85 degrees and sunny. So
we'll be back with you guys Wednesday from Davie with our weekly Q&A and give you guys all the updates going into the Buffalo game. We look forward to talking to you then. That's Christmas Eve.
Christmas Eve.
Please
Santa hat.
check Facebook. Check our Facebook page tonight, tomorrow morning. Check out the Daily Dolphin. Everything on PalmBeachPost.com. There's going to be a ton of stuff about tonight and about going forward. All of the information, all the updates you guys need.
Now we have to go right. That's like a part of our job is to actually write.
Right.
Go figure. Thanks, guys.